Kids are supposed to bury parents, not parents burying kids.
The Alfano's only daughter, Pam Weatherby, died July 10th, 2010.
She was 45 years old. She shouldn't be dead. That's Pam right there.
Nearly 2 years later, Weatherby's death is raising troubling questions about the lack of medical treatment inside Dawson State Jail.
She was one of the forgotten ones.
The state sentenced Weatherby to spend 1 year here for drug possession. Just weeks into her sentence, her parents began to worry.
That wasn't like Pam not to write.
When they finally received this letter from Pam, their fears only grew worse. "I'm still alive. I have been in and out of the hospital."
I knew right then we had a problem.
Weatherby had suffered from severe diabetes most of her life.
It was bad.
Ann Roderick lived in the same cell as Pam Weatherby.
She was defecating and vomiting. She was to the point you couldn't even hold a conversation with her.
She says the inmates took care of Weatherby's medical needs because no one else would.
I knew she was going to die in there.
Roderick and 2 other inmates wrote this letter to her home address, hoping someone on the outside would help.
Pam is in medical trouble and has been in a fight for her life just about every day.
There's 28 phone calls to that jail trying to get somebody to listen to me.
After you received the letter?
After I received the letter.
But the Alfanos say no one called them back, not until July 14th. That's when a chaplain at the jail told them their daughter had died.
CBS 11 has obtained jail records which show Weatherby became ill that night around 10:30, was taken down to the medical unit, but the staff had gone home for the night. Jail policy says an inmate can speak to a nurse by phone or on a video monitor. But that night, no one made the call for Pam Weatherby.
Jail records show the medical staff came in at 5 a.m., checked Weatherby's condition, and called 911. Doctors declared Pam Weatherby dead at 6:59.
The fact that she just laid there on a mat, on a cold floor.
It needs to not happen to others like it happened to Pam.
She was probably laying in the same room I was.
Abby, a former inmate at Dawson, says this could have easily happened to her.
You were afraid you were going to die,
Yes.
and no one was helping you?
No.
She doesn't want us to use her last name, but she says her cries for medical help were also ignored one night when she spiked a fever. She remembers thinking,
Please don't let me die here and my mom have to live with me getting sick and passing away while I was in the prison.
these women are among 14 other former inmates now telling CBS 11 they too experienced or witnessed the lack of medical care inside these walls.
If you got sick, if you got the flu, if you didn't feel good, I mean, it was a constant battle.
To stay alive?
To stay alive.
Finally, they stick me in a cell and thinking that I had a stomach virus.
This is segregation they put you in, right?
Yes, for 10 days.
Without any medical treatment?
Without any medical treatment.
No doctor ever came to see you?
No doctor ever came to see me.
Did you ever fear you'd die?
I did.
Dawson State Jail is run by a company called Corrections Corporation of America, or CCA, out of Tennessee. No one from the company would sit down with us to do an interview. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice still regulates the jails, but a 1986 law allowed the state to start privatizing jails, giving contracts to these prison management companies.
That's what they're getting paid for. They're getting all these bucks. It's up to them to perform.
Charles Terrell, the prison board chairman at the time, helped write the legislation.
Thanks.
But he says he warned the state that private companies may try to cut corners, especially in areas like medicine.
Did you ever worry this would be a problem?
From day one.
CBS 11 has obtained internal CCA documents that show the chief of security reported that supervisors did not follow proper procedures that night by failing to call for help for Pam Weatherby, and even recommended terminating a shift supervisor. But when CCA had to file an incident report with the state of Texas, the warden wrote, "Staff acted in accordance with TDCJ procedure. No training needs have been identified."
TDCJ should be all over that saying, well, your head of security says this and recommends termination, and the warden just glosses over it.
We love you, Pam.
For Pam Weatherby, her parents say a one-year term became a death sentence.
She was paying for what she did.
She wasn't a murderer, she wasn't a robber, nothing.
She didn't deserve to die.
Now, I have the documents right here. We have confirmed 7 other inmates have died at Dawson since 2004, and we're pushing to get more records so we can get more details surrounding these deaths. But I can tell you the former inmates that did talk to us say they believe some of these women died due to the lack of medical care there. Well, now more than a dozen inmates have come forward to tell me how they believe their cries for medical help were also ignored. And now lawmakers are reacting as well.
2 weeks before she died, I hadn't gotten a letter from her, and it was very unusual.
30-year-old Ashley Shea Parks died just 6 weeks before she was scheduled to be released from Dawson State Jail in downtown Dallas. It's a low-security facility for people convicted of nonviolent crimes. Parks was serving an 18-month sentence for drug possession.
My little sister lived only long enough for my mother to make it to her bedside.
Who talked to you on the telephone about the passing of your daughter?
Her mother and brother now know Parks had come down with pneumonia. The only phone call they received came too late.
They didn't tell us what was wrong with her, what had happened to her, or anything, only that if you want to see her alive again, you better come.
Administrators at Dawson had just transported Parks to Lancaster Hospital, where they had a contract for medical care.
So the medical personnel there in the ICU immediately told me the people there had delayed in getting them to her. And that there was basically nothing that they could do for her. The head charge nurse that was there and the man who tried to resuscitate my sister told us that the prison killed your sister.
Parks family members say they later received letters from inmates saying they didn't tell you everything. Parks was really sick. They didn't try to help her. They didn't have the antibiotics she needed.
Do you believe if Ashley had received medical treatment, she would be alive today?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, yeah, the hospital told me that.
CBS 11 first started investigating problems at Dawson after Pam Weatherby's parents came forward. They, too, believed their daughter would be alive if her cries for medical care had been heard.
She was 45 years old. She shouldn't be dead. And that's Pam right there.
Weatherby, a severe diabetic, died during her 1-year sentence for drug possession.
It was bad.
Ann Roderick, another inmate, shared a cell with Weatherby.
She was defecating and vomiting.
Who was taking care of Pam?
We were.
Why were you doing it?
I knew she was going to die in there.
Dawson State Jail is run by CCA, Corrections Corporation of America, a prison management company in Tennessee contracted by the state of Texas. CBS 11 obtained internal CCA documents that show the chief of security reported that supervisors did not follow proper procedures by failing to call for help for Pam Weatherby, even recommending terminating a shift supervisor. But when CCA had to file an incident report with the state of Texas, the warden wrote, staff acted in accordance with TDCJ procedure. No training needs have been identified.
It needs to not happen to others like it happened to Pam.
When I saw that, I felt for the family.
Ashley Parks had died 2 years before Pam Weatherby.
And I thought to myself, this is the same exact story that happened to my little sister.
Her family contacted CBS 11 after seeing our first investigation.
The best way to describe my immediate feeling was one of guilt. If I had done something more myself, maybe this girl would still be alive.
Nearly 20 former inmates have also contacted CBS 11, saying they were afraid to talk when they were at Dawson, but now want to speak out for those who are still there.
You were afraid you were going to die.
Yes.
The public should be aware that certainly we're going to continue to look into it.
Texas Representative Jerry Madden chairs the Criminal Justice Board, which oversees the jails.
Do you have concern about the number of stories that have come to me that all sound similar?
There is always a concern when there are several.
Representative Madden reviewed our findings, and on the day we were in his office, he worked to get more information from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
If everything is true, then there's items that need to be looked at.
We wanted to come forward and make sure that Ashley's story is heard, but more importantly, that this stops at some point. It has to stop.
CCA would not agree to an interview, but did send us a statement saying it is not aware of complaints regarding Parks. CCA also says it ensures inmates have access to health care. Now, the state would not discuss Parks' case or confirm any investigation, but Representative Madden says he is aware of an ongoing investigation into issues at Dawson.
So the investigation continues. What about the Weatherbys and the Parks? Are they filing suit in any way?
Ashley Park's family had filed a lawsuit, but they later dropped it. The Weatherbys are in the middle of their suit right now, and I should tell you, I'm still looking into other reports of women who have died at Dawson, so you may not have heard the end of this.
Yeah, definitely not. Ginger, thanks.
And you'll remember we told you the stories of 2 inmates who died. One, a severe diabetic. Her family says she was so sick, but her cries for help were ignored. And then there's this young woman who died of pneumonia. Her family believes it was because she didn't receive the antibiotics she needed. But tonight, a story not about an inmate, instead, a baby girl. Jean Burr is looking at the only pictures of her newest granddaughter, a little girl with the perfect name, Gracie.
She was here by the grace of God and gone the same way.
Gracie came into the world in an unlikely place, Dawson State Jail. It holds nonviolent offenders who commit minor crimes. Gracie's mother, Autumn Miller, was convicted of a drug charge, violated her probation, and got a year behind bars. When she arrived here in January, Autumn Miller already had children and knew what it felt like to be pregnant.
3 weeks before the baby was born, she'd requested a pregnancy test and a pap smear because she had not had a period since she'd been there. She didn't know exactly what was wrong, but she knew, that she was not feeling right.
Officials at Dawson will not tell CBS 11 News whether they have any records of Autumn Miller requesting a pregnancy test. Dawson State Jail is run by a private company called CCA that will not respond to our questions about what happened inside these walls on June 14th. Autumn Miller told her mother it was early in the morning when she began bleeding, cramping, and couldn't even walk.
They took her down to the medical unit on the stretcher. When she got there was a doctor on screen.
But Autumn Miller told her mother the doctor, who was available through a teleconference, never had a chance to see her.
The lady that was down there in the medical unit in charge told the doctor they did not need him for this patient, so they just turned that off. She was crying, complaining that she was having pressure, pain, bleeding, and she, something was bad wrong. They needed to do something. And one of the guards in there made the comment, "Oh, it's probably the food. You probably need to go poo." They gave her a menstrual pad, locked her in a holding cell, and closed the door. That's it. And then she went in there, and the pressure was so bad, she went to the toilet. When she did, the baby came out in the toilet, and she started screaming.
Tiny Gracie was born premature at just 26 weeks and weighed a little more than a pound. Doctors at Parkland Hospital worked against the odds to save her. Autumn Miller, still in handcuffs, reached out with hope. But after 4 days, Gracie was beyond all help.
So she made the decision to let the baby go. Autumn held her while she took her last breaths and heartbeats. And then they pronounced her dead at 5:30, and shortly after 6, she was on her way back to Dawson.
Back to Dawson, where her mother says she was put in solitary confinement for 2 days.
And this is still a woman bleeding and stitches where she'd had a tubal. And then they finally took her to see a psychiatrist after that, and they said, "Well, you've been on suicide watch." She didn't even know that the 2 days she was there.
After she lost Gracie, Jean Burr found out about our investigation and the death of other inmates serving time for minor crimes at Dawson.
Understand their freedom and their rights have been taken because they have done things to cause that. This could have been prevented. No baby should be born in a toilet in a prison.
If they had given Autumn that pregnancy test when she asked for it, do you think things would be different?
They'd have known she was having a baby. She could have been in a medical unit. She could have been having treatment that she should have had, and maybe Gracie would still be here with us. But maybe not. But my daughter wouldn't have to live with wondering, was everything done that could have been done to save her? She's going to see that baby being born in that toilet and die, and that's what she's going to see for the rest of her life. And she didn't deserve that. That didn't have to happen.
Gracie died June 18th. We wanted to talk to Autumn Miller, but her lawyer tells us he didn't want her to talk while she is still in Dawson. We also wanted to talk to the private company that runs the jail, but no one there would answer our questions.
What about the state of Texas, though? They're in charge of running the private jail, right?
They are. Same story. No one there would answer our questions either. I should tell you about something we just learned today, and that is there is no state requirement to have medically trained staff in the jail after 5 p.m. So think about it. What that means is when baby Gracie was born, only guards were there making the decisions.
No medical staff after 5. That seems odd.
Right, but we haven't heard the last of this.
You haven't.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ginger.